Ableton Live 11 versus Melodyne 5 Studio. Have you ever wondered which one was better at pitching vocals? Let's put them both to the test to see if there's any situations where one is better than the other. And better in this case means that there are fewer noticeable artifacts like graininess and strange resonances and other degradations of that nature. It's not every day that you get to use the word degradations, but here we are. Let's get into it. So to make it easier for us to hear the artifacts more clearly, I'm just gonna put some vocals through some pretty extreme warping conditions. We're gonna take this vocal that I picked up from Splice and pitch it up and down an entire octave while we keep the timing consistent. Oh, and just before we get into this, one important aspect of this comparison is that Ableton gives you control over the formants, and it makes a huge difference to the amount of detectable artifacts that we can hear. Basically, if the formants are consistent with the pitch, then a lower pitched vocal will sound like a giant and a higher pitched vocal will sound
like a chipmunk,
and not at all like the original vocalist. Ableton and Melodyne both use different metrics for their formant control, so I had to approximate a similar amount in both. All right, so here is what the original vocal sounds like.
You won't go fooling me twice now, baby. I'm sorry, that's the way it is, yeah.
And now we have it pitched down an octave, and we're just gonna keep the formants consistent with the pitch.
You're fooling me twice now, baby. I'm sorry, that's the way it is, yeah. You're fooling me twice now, baby. I'm sorry, that's the way it is, yeah.
Next, we've got it down an octave, but we're gonna bring the formants halfway in between where the original vocals formants were and where the pitch down formants would be.
You're fooling me twice now, baby. I'm sorry, that's the way it is, yeah. You're fooling me twice now, baby. I'm sorry, that's the way it is, yeah.
And finally, here's an octave down, but with the formants as close to the original vocalist as we can get.
You're fooling me twice now, baby. I'm sorry, that's the way it is, yeah. You're fooling me twice now, baby. I'm sorry, that's the way it is, yeah.
So at this point, what have you guys heard so far? What have your ears picked up on? Do you think they sound the same or different? Let me know down in the comments below. And in the meantime, we're gonna take a 5-second ear break. Here we go, ready? Like, subscribe. Okay, next up we have, you guessed it, the same test but with an octave up this time. So here they are with the formants consistent with the pitch. Here's an octave up this time, but we're bringing the formants halfway down to where the original vocals were recorded. And then an octave up, but with the formants as close to the original vocalist as possible. So with the vocals pitched up, what did you guys notice this time? For me, obviously, Melodyne and Ableton have different applications, but there is some overlap. For example, if you wanted to change the key of the vocal, which one would you use? Would you use Melodyne or would you use Ableton? Okay, let's start with Melodyne. Melodyne to me sounded like it was smoother, it was less grainy, and it had less noticeable artifacts all around. One thing that stood out to me, the way that Melodyne handled the pitching of the vocals, was that it did not pitch the consonants at all, whereas Ableton did.
You're fooling me twice now, baby. You're fooling me twice now, baby.
Overall, Melodyne just sounded more realistic to me. I think it'd be a better choice for changing keys if you're working on a lead vocal where the detail really matters. The good news, and something that surprised me actually, is that if Melodyne did this well with a 12 semitone adjustment, I'm confident you could get away with a dramatic keychain, like even something as dramatic as 4 or 5 semitones, and make it sound as realistic as possible. Ableton, on the other hand, had a more grainy and sort of resonant quality on the vocals, especially when we adjusted the formants. It just reminds me more of an effect that you'd hear in electronic music, like in a remix or something. It's not trying to sound as real as possible, but it sounds closer to what you'd expect a pitched vocal to sound like. One of the things that Ableton does have going for it though is that if you don't need to change the melody in any way, it's way faster to do broad adjustments to the pitch.
I'm sorry, that's the way it is.
That you don't need any other plugins. You don't have to wait on the recording in process like you do with Melodyne, and there's no extra CPU taken up. It's just nice and quick and dirty. And to be fair to Ableton, you do actually have more control over the formants than I'm giving it credit for in this test, because you can use a combination of the formants and the envelope sliding scales, and you can usually find ways to reduce the artifacts by playing with the balance in between those two parameters.
You won't go
Fooling me twice now, baby. I'm sorry, that's the way it is. Yeah.
And honestly, we shouldn't be too surprised about the difference in realism, because Melodyne is obviously dedicated software for realistically pitching sounds, but given the results, what would you use Ableton for over Melodyne, or vice versa? Let me know in the comments down below. We'll see you in the next one.